Good evening. We'll call the August 20th meeting to order, please. Before we have our moment of silence, please make sure your phones are turned off or silenced, and so that we don't disrupt the flow of business. We'll do our moment of silence now. Please join me. Thank you very much. And then if you are able, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our Ethan Smith is out tonight, but does the board, do you have any announcements? No? Okay. All right, item number 6, public comments, requests, and presentations. We have with us, joining us tonight, the United States Tennis Association and Amy Brandon. And so, Mr. Jaycox, you want to come up?
And Amy from LNTA, which is a local chapter of the United States Tennis Association, before they come and bring us a big fat check back there. I just want to recognize the organization. You know, I've been here for many years, and there's very few partners that have been around for so long, have done so much for the community. A good example is North Meck Park. They funded, when we built the courts there, 2017, they funded half of the cost to resurface the courts, and then tonight, once again funded more than half of the cost of resurface courts 7 years later. They also gave over $100,000 between our Spartan Park tennis complex at CSD, also at Holbrook Park. So I think it's about over $300,000. But beyond the paying for help build courts and maintain courts, also they provide lessons and leagues for seniors, youth, adults. They also host one of the biggest state championships for USTA in North Carolina as well. A lot of volunteer hours. I just want to recognize them because it's been many years that they've been doing this and probably don't get enough credit to them. So I just want to thank them. But you'll want to bring the check up?
Yeah, thank you. And board, if you will come around to the front, we'll take a picture with them.
Do I say something? Can I say a couple words? Is that okay? Michael kind of stole my thunder. I've known him, I've been with LNTA since 2008, so I've been a part of all of the great things we've done with North Meck Park, Spartan Park, Holbrook Park. But I just wanted to, I gave a copy of this to Michael if any of you are interested. It's a little letter from our president, J.D. Weber. But just really quickly, USTA leagues for juniors and adults are growing and strong in the Lake Norman area. Just this past year, our spring adult league grew 7%. We have thousands of players playing tennis. Our summer adult league grew 10%, and our tri-level league, which just finished, grew 15%. So we are still growing. We do junior team tennis every Sunday afternoon in the spring and fall. One of our facilities is Spartan Park. We have all 8 courts on Sunday afternoon, and we have all 12 at Jeton Park for our older kids, and we have over 500 kids in that program a year. So that's ages 10 to 18. So Jeton Park was the home to 52 teams this year. Spartan was 32, and North Meck was 23, and those are adult teams, and each team has 15 players on it. So just the public parks alone fuel a lot of tennis participation. So the fact that we pay court fees, that helps with a lot of the improvements that we do. And then the USTA also has a fantastic grant program. And I have to recognize Michael as being one of the best people that always knows the grant is there, always fills out the application, always goes for that funding, because not everybody does. They say, it's in our budget, we don't need the money. I'm like, who doesn't need the money? So anyway, we are presenting you guys today with a $34,000 check from the USTA for the resurfacing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. I don't know who wants to come and be in the picture. Oh, Oh, and the hats, yeah, I provided everybody with a hat, yay. Those are from, all of our volunteers for the state championship we held in June, got one of those hats, so that was our 11th year, yeah, absolutely. Oh, we going to the front?
Thank you so much. All right, we are on to item 6B, Mecklenburg County Homes Program. Ms. Francis, you can take the podium. Thank you.
One. I am Shakira Francis. I am with the Department of Community Resources. I am the manager of the Homes Program. Just coming today to give you a little bit of information about the program. Hopefully you've already heard about it, but here's a little bit more. We are here to help homeowners in Mecklenburg County who are struggling with the rising cost of owning a home. And so we are an ally, like I said, to help people to maintain their homes and remain in their homes. So the Homes Program, which stands for Helping Out Mecklenburg's Homeowners with Economic Support. If you reside in Mecklenburg County, you can receive up to $648 towards your tax bill. If you reside in the city of Charlotte, there can be an additional $367. And the town of Davidson has partnered with us this year, and you can get an additional $566 if you reside in that town. So the requirements for our program: the property must be in Mecklenburg County. The property must be the owner's legal primary residence, meaning that it can't be that the owner lives somewhere else and they're renting out that property and then they try to apply for the benefits. They have to reside in that home, and they have to have been in that home for at least 3 years. The grant recipient's name must be on the recorded deed or title, and when the qualifying person's name is not on a deed and title but on a recorded life estate, the person may participate in the program. So these are our income limits for 2024. There is no age requirement, and your house does not have to be paid off. Also, if you are in escrow, if your mortgage is in escrow, you are still eligible. And if it's already been paid out by your bank, then it will roll over to the next year and reduce the amount that you owe for the upcoming year. So applications received last year, we gave out over $2 million in homes grants. So of course we want to increase that this year. And you can just see how our program has grown. So for FY21, 677 applications. Last year, we did 7,622 applications. We actually consider this our FY25 year that we are currently in. So applicants are first come, first served basis until funds are exhausted. Like I said before, if the property tax has already been paid at the time you apply, the awarded grant amount goes towards the next year property tax bill. If the property tax is escrowed, you can still apply, and payments go directly to the county assessor's office. So it's not something that we cut and go and gives to the applicants. It goes directly to the assessor's office. And this is how everyone can apply. The best way to apply is mecnc.gov/forhomes online. Comes directly to us in an email, and we will process the application. Or they can come into one of our 2 community resource centers, which is Valerie C. Woodard or LOB Scarborough. And then we also are taking applications at the county assessor's office. And then our Homes Program leadership: Yolanda Griffin is our director at the Department of Community Resources. Delisa Tolbert is our division director. Denise Salzbow is the assistant division director. I am the manager of the Homes Program, and Jamie Nagel is our supervisor. And so just to give you some background on the funding amounts that we have, for Mecklenburg County, it was $7 million that we were granted, a little over $7 million this year. And so overall already, and with the city of Charlotte, we had a little over $1 million that was granted to us, and then the town of Davidson gave us close to $16,000. And so right now, we have spent almost close to 1.3 million. And we are getting applications. The tax bills went out, and applications are rolling in. So if you know anyone who would be eligible for this program, please let them know about this information. If you need any further information, you can definitely reach out to me, and I can get brochures, information of any kind to you. But that's where we are, so thank you so much. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yes, I know you all are located at your community resource centers. Do you all come out into the different communities? I know you said Davidson gave you an amount of 16,000. Did you all come out to Davidson to speak about this program? And did you set up like a workshop in the community? How did that work?
Well, we are in the community. We go to community events all the time. Just like I'm here this evening, just trying to get the information out. We definitely want people who can partner with us, especially if a town wants to come on and add some additional funding. That would be awesome. But we are always in the community because we know that everyone cannot get to us. So we are out going to festivals. We are out just getting the word out to whoever is able to have us. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
You too. Thank you for coming. Item 6C, Raptor Center, they had an illness, so they are not coming. I'm going to reorder. We have one public comment, and I'm going to let Mr. Fountain go first before I read the Women's Equality Day Proclamation. So you want to come up? Just state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, fellow citizens. I'm Bill Fountain. As a former high school economics teacher, I learned to appreciate the wisdom of the famous black economist and social philosopher Thomas Sewell, who said, "The problem is Johnny doesn't know what thinking is. He confuses it with feelings." Over the years, thanks to the federal, state, and CMS district, our schools, public schools, use social emotional learning to indoctrinate the youth to follow their feelings or their passions, and while dispensed away from moral virtues. SEL, his focus is less on academic content and more on what the subjects or the students' mindsets, their behaviors, those type of things. Now, while many of the Huntersville public schools have fared fairly well, most of CMS has not. So how can a child learn to read, write, and do math if they have problems with reasoning? A recent behavior and research and therapy study found that many, or after completing an SEL program, that more of the students would found they would be more depressed, they were more anxious, they had more difficulty in managing emotions, and they had reported worse relationships with their parents. Results of this kind of make sense. Social emotional learning is cultivating victimhood and thus unhappiness. Some teachers say they lose the class time because they have to play some dumb SEL games. If we must have SEL, why not focus or try to promote virtues such as prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance, humility? These will benefit students more than victimhood. Men like Thomas Sewell, Martin Luther King, and Frederick Douglass all advocated virtues, and virtues go hand in hand with character. And I think that's going to help us a lot. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, item 6D. We have a proclamation for Women's Equality Day. Whereas on August 26, 1920, after decades of hard-fought advocacy, women won the right to vote, and our nation moved forward one step closer to living out our sacred ideal that all people are created equal. On Women's Equality Day, we honor the movement for universal suffrage that led to the 19th Amendment, celebrate the progress of women over the years, and renew our commitment to advancing gender equity and protecting women's rights. And whereas with the ratification of the 19th Amendment, millions of women across the country were finally able to make their voices heard in our elections. Yet many women of color who helped lead the universal suffrage movement were effectively denied those rights until the Voting Rights Act passed 45 years later. Women are less likely to have time to vote in person with increased caregiving demands and disproportionate share of low-wage inflexible work. The right to vote and to have that vote counted is essential to the future of our democracy, and whereas women and girls have fought for justice and freedom throughout our history, all Americans should have the opportunity to fully participate in society. No one's rights should be denied because of their gender. And whereas on Women's Equality Day, we celebrate the trailblazers who have fought to deliver a better future for America's daughters. We recognize the work that remains to ensure that everyone can fully participate and make fundamental choices. We strive to uphold our nation's promise of equality for all people. Now, therefore, I, Christy Clark, Mayor of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim August 26th as Women's Equality Day in Huntersville, North Carolina. Thank you. And do we have any agenda changes or a motion to adopt the agenda?
I make the motion to adopt the agenda.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And now may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
A second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We do not have any public hearings tonight. We're on to item 10, other business. 10A, consider approving Ada Jenkins FY25 budget amendment. Before we begin, do any members of the board have to recuse themselves from this item?
I do.
Okay. So now I may have a motion to recuse Commissioner Quarles.
Before we recuse Commissioner Quarles, I'd love to have a discussion about the process.
I skipped over my own notes.
About the process that we are, going about with this.
Yep. Ms. Loop?
Yes, good evening, Board. I just wanted to provide some background information, as in 2021, there was a Senate bill. It was Senate Bill 473, which was Session Law 2021-191. It established a new section of the Chapter 14 of the North Carolina General Statutes, particularly 14-234.3. That section prohibits local public officials from participating in contracts benefiting nonprofits that the public official is associated with, as defined by that section. When that law passed, a question came up as to how to budget for local government funding of nonprofits. And that's because typically those nonprofits must sign a contract in order to receive the funding from local governments. And those contracts state that the nonprofit will carry out a specific public purpose in exchange for those funds. Various options were identified as potential procedural processes to budget for the nonprofits after this legislative change. The UNC School of Government weighed in, as did various local government attorneys in North Carolina. And the process that the town of Huntersville currently utilizes is to allow nonprofits to submit requests for funding via an application outlining what they plan to do with the funds. And then the town board considers individual budget amendments related to each request. If the town board does decide to approve the budget amendment, the nonprofit must enter into a contract with the town agreeing to use the funds for a particular purpose, as notated in their application or as specified in the motion that is used to approve the budget amendment. The town board does have currently, and has for some time, a nonprofit funding policy. It would be within the board's capabilities, if they so choose, to edit or amend that policy to add annual nonprofit funding dollar thresholds, or a formula, let's say, as to how to calculate how much would be appropriated to nonprofit funding each year. Again, that's something that could be done at the policy level if the board so chooses.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So I thank you for, I'm sorry, did I need to wait for you to have open discussion? Okay. Thank you. I find that this is really helpful. I think one of the things going into this process that I struggled with was it seemingly felt like there was an unlimited pool of money that we were kind of playing with, and which of course isn't the case. And you know, I had wondered if we could put it in as a line item in our budget, which wouldn't fit based on these rules. So what my process was going into this, and I'd love to get feedback or thoughts from others, was to look at last year's amount and to you know, determine a slightly higher amount that I was okay with as a pool of money for these nonprofits. And so, yeah, I would love to hear from others to see what their process was in approaching this.
I absolutely agree with Commissioner Dumas. In 2021, we funded about $69,000 in nonprofit requests. This year, the original request was almost $400,000. We've obviously been looking at it over time. I think you're right. We at the beginning, or during our budget, we made a commitment to affordable housing. And so we said we're going to put $150,000 in towards affordable housing. I think at some point we have to look at the nonprofits and come up with a number. I think it's also fair to point out that just the requests tonight aren't the only thing we do. Our biggest nonprofit that we contribute to is across the street, which is Discovery Place Kids. And they, based on their 23 tax return, recognize that the town has basically given them almost $240,000 in money based on the cost of operating that facility across the street. Between the parking deck and the building itself, it costs the town almost $700,000. They've got 2 floors of it and part of the parking deck. So, you know, the town does step up to help nonprofits, but I think at some point we have to figure out a way to, you know, going from $70,000, for a couple of years there was ARPA funds available, there's no new ARPA funds coming in, so I think at some point we have to look at a number and then make those requests fit within that number.
Anyone else? Commissioner Bergsman?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Dumas. I didn't know we were that you were going to bring this up tonight, but I think it is an important discussion that needs to be had. I could see that, you know, maybe it's something we bring to the planning retreat next year before we get too deep into the budget process, unlike this year. I felt for a long time, not just this year, but past years, that there are modifications that could be made to make this a more equitable, fair process to everyone involved. And whether that is looking at setting, you know, a threshold or along those lines, whether that's looking at tweaking the applications and seeing how we can get better information from all of our applicants, you know, it is something important that we should look at.
I believe putting a cap on nonprofits is like saying we all should live in the same type of community. We live in different communities because we have different lifestyles. The different nonprofits, they have different needs. Some have a larger customer base. I believe in putting a cap, you could discriminate against some organizations based on their needs. I would like to see us increase what we give to nonprofits. We are here to serve. The nonprofits provide services that the government can't provide. You mentioned Discovery Place at $240,000. I don't think you could put a value on education. I truly believe that Discovery Place brings in a lot of value to our community that is a staple to Huntersville As we look at revitalizing our downtown, I think more businesses want to move into this area because of Discovery Place. So again, that one there is, I think that place brings more value than $240,000 to our revenue.
Oh, go ahead.
First, I agree with Commissioner Bergsman that this should just be part of a larger conversation. But from my perspective, this isn't just about how much money we're giving to each organization, because this is about demonstrating humanity and compassion for other people. We can't know right now what the investment looks like that we're willing to make in a young person. We don't know what this investment is going to look like for someone who is fighting tooth and nail for some sort of economic mobility in a county that was at once ranked dead last for economic mobility. As Commissioner Quarles said, these nonprofits are filling in gaps in services that the town can't provide, and providing funds to these groups allows them to help people in ways that we can't.
Commissioner Rivers?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Quarles, Commissioner Bergsman, as well as Commissioner Hunt in regards to Commissioner Bergsman having, this is a conversation that definitely needs to be had, but you can't put a price on resources and the needs for people. Being able to go to government agencies or any type of resources to ask for help is a humbling experience. So these nonprofit organizations provide those resources. They offset the cost that the government would have to put in. So no, I don't agree with putting a cap or putting any type of cap on the amount that we give. But I do think that we definitely need to have a conversation to come to some type of common ground. Just some of the thought processes behind the reasoning why we made the decisions that we made were a bit difficult to swallow, because we're all human. And I think people forget or become so far removed, not everybody's privileged. So I think we have to keep in mind that when these nonprofit organizations are coming up to here to even ask, it's a humbling experience for them to even have to ask for funding to fund the resources that they are providing for the residents and the communities around us.
Thank you. Commissioner Walsh?
Just for clarification, I know Commissioner Quarles mentioned the amount that we spend at Discovery Place Kids. The point was to say the town is stepping up along with what we approved tonight. We do fund Discovery Place Kids, as well as we've made a commitment to affordable housing. So just wanted people to understand what we're doing as a part of the whole entire effort.
I appreciate everybody's thoughts. Thank you. I was not intending to speak that, we shouldn't. I think I'm talking more about the process, and I would welcome a larger and deeper conversation about that, so I appreciate that. I have something that I was going to say when I make a motion on one of the other nonprofits. Do you mind if I have a few minutes now? I'm going to be really, really personal with this. I really went back and forth on whether or not I should do this, but I'm going to, and please forgive me, I don't usually read and have notes, but I'm going to at this point. At the start of the summer of my junior year, my mom and I left my dad, moving to a new state with the idea that we would move my two younger brothers out before the start of the school year. I had just turned 16. She hadn't really worked since before we were born, at which point she was a flight attendant, and she got a job at a call center in the airlines, and we moved where that job was. She was paid minimum wage and had scheduled jumps in her pay as long as she passed certain exams and training schedules. I lived with some friends for a few weeks while she found a place for us to live. We rented a house with a roommate and her nonverbal brother. I found a job within walking distance and then a second job across the street from that one. We did move my brothers out, but we didn't have much room, so I slept in an unfinished basement next to a washer and dryer. Our roommate's brother had been starved and abused by his family while he was a child, so when left alone, he would rummage in our cabinets and eat anything that we had, from flour to raw rice. We often came home to a destroyed kitchen and nothing to eat, even with locks on every cabinet. A few months into the school year, we were shocked to get an eviction notice. Apparently, the roommate had stopped paying her rent several months earlier. By some miracle, my mom found us an apartment in a part of town that my classmates were warned to avoid. We had gotten to a point that she was making about $9 or $10 an hour, and I remember she was worried about taking the next pay increase because we would lose some of the benefits we needed to survive. She worked so hard. I remember watching my mom that year, amazed and proud of what she could accomplish, but stressed every day that something would happen to mess it up, and occasionally those things did happen, and somehow we figured it out. I threw myself into school and work. My chorus teacher recruited me to a musical, and I found a love for arts. After the show, a school counselor stopped me in the hall and suggested I audition for a performing arts high school, but I avoided her because I knew we couldn't afford it. This counselor kept on me about it and helped me apply for grants, and somehow it all worked out. And I did my senior year at a new school. This school opened so many doors for me. I could now see a path to college and a future. I learned confidence and speaking skills, and ultimately feel like theater taught me my life coping skills, and that have gotten to me to where I am today. My point with all this, along this difficult path, we had help. We had food stamps and took advantage of the free lunch program proudly. Yes, I was proud. It took a lot of bravery for my mom to start fresh and leaving my dad. It was a nearly impossible task, but staying where we were was worse, and she knew it. But even with these government programs, it wasn't enough. If it weren't for the organizations that gave us a few groceries here and there, we would have gone hungry. And if it weren't for the counselor and arts grants, I wouldn't have seen a future for myself, and I wouldn't be sitting in this seat. These grants are an investment in our future, in the future of our residents and our children in town, and I would give every one of them the amount they've asked for, or more if I could. That being said, we don't have an unlimited bankroll to do that. So that's why I took my approach with increasing last year's amount in order to stay within a certain approach, and I would really love to discuss that further at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Anyone else? Thank you. Okay, now we will proceed with our order of business, and Commissioner Quarles is asked to be recused from item 10A, which is consider approving Ada Jenkins' budget amendment. Can I get a motion to recuse Commissioner Quarles?
I'll make a motion to recuse Commissioner Quarles.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, Commissioner Quarles, you're recused. We'll call you back in when we're ready. And may I have a motion for the approving Ada Jenkins' budget amendment? Commissioner Rivers?
Before I make the motion, I want to just give a little bit of history about our first agenda item, which is the Ada Jenkins Center. Originally named the Davidson Colored School, now named the Ada Jenkins Center, has been a staple in the Davidson community as well as the northern region of Mecklenburg County for many years. The Ada Jenkins Center serves as a center for the Davidson community as well as the northern region. Ada Jenkins Center provides the following services: economic mobility, financial assistance, educational services, food pantry assistance, homeless outreach, and volunteer income tax services. The Ada Jenkins Center exists to help people in their community, our community, create lasting solutions for economic stability. I would like to make a motion tonight to award $35,000 to the Ada Jenkins Center on behalf of the town of Huntersville to ensure that the services provided by Ada Jenkins Center are able to continue for the residents of the northern region of Mecklenburg County.
May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any Any discussion? And I will say, as a person who works at an elementary school who sees the benefit of Ada Jenkins, I know this money will be well spent to support our students that are struggling to meet success in the academic setting. And I've seen many of my students graduate from the program they have there and move on to have success. And so I appreciate this motion. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. And now may I have a motion to bring Commissioner Quarles back?
I make a motion to bring Commissioner Quarles back.
And may I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, we are going on to item 10B, which is Angels and Sparrows. Do any of the commissioners need to be recused from this item? Okay. And so may I have a motion for item 10B, consider approving Angels and Sparrows Food Security Program?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Angels and Sparrows Security Program, Food Security Program for $20,000, full year 25 budget amendment.
May I have a second?
Second.
And any discussion? And I can say, I can also add to this one as well, that their food security program is growing and the need is growing, and I do see that as well every day at the school where I work, and so I appreciate this motion. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. And now we're on to item 10C, consider approving Angels and Sparrows Pathway Program. May I have a motion?
I'm honored to make the motion to approve $40,000 for Angels and Sparrows Pathway Program for the full year, fiscal year 25 budget amendment.
May I have a second?
Second.
And any discussion? Commissioner Hunt?
I volunteered with them 2 years ago, and I get their newsletter in my email, and it's called The Dish, which is cute. But I wanted to share a stat from there that they shared about their Pathway program, and it said 93% of Pathway youth and teens improve their reading scores and 98% improve their math scores. Adult participants are achieving English proficiency, completing high school equivalency requirements, and progressing to career training programs. 145 individuals are being helped by this program. It's an amazing program, and I am super excited to vote for this.
All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, and the motion carries unanimously. Item 10D, consider approving Arts and Science Council budget amendment. May I have a motion? Oh, I need to ask if anyone needs to be recused before we go forward. No one needs to be recused? Okay. Now we can have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a budget amendment for the Arts and Science Council in the amount of $15,000 for the purposes stated in their nonprofit funding application.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Bergman? Discussion?
So, yeah, I do have some things to say about this particular agenda item. Apart from $5,000 last year, the town of Huntersville has not funded the Arts and Science Council for many of the years in the past decade. Past board's reasoning often involved believing that those tax dollars could be utilized by more effectively doing it ourselves. However, that plan never materialized, and our community has since filled the gap. Despite Huntersville's overall lack of direct funding, in contrast to many other municipalities, the Arts and Science Council has continued to invest in Huntersville, supporting our local artists and providing services to our residents. In the fiscal year 2024, the ASC committed more than $125,000 in funds for arts and cultural programs created by or for Huntersville residents. The ASC is uniquely positioned to develop effective and beneficial arts and cultural programming. But some may rightfully ask, why should local governments spend taxpayer money on public art? And it's a good question, and I do believe deserves an answer. My professional experience is working with marginalized communities and nonprofit organizations that provide trauma-informed care. I have seen firsthand how access to public arts programming can positively impact well-being and health. As a past director of the Refugee Claimants Support Center, I was intricately involved with the Scattered People's Choir Project, which was funded in part by the city council of the community where I lived at that time. The Scattered People's Choir exemplifies how music and arts can lend witness, lift voices, restore hope, and promote healing. Starting as a choir for refugees and allies, Scattered Peoples went on to produce an award-winning album covering themes of love for one's hometown, the trauma of persecution and war, the difficulties of having to flee your homeland, and the overwhelming desire for peace and acceptance. One of the songs on the album, La Barik Sira Hotu, which means all the children, became a favorite in East Timor after the United Nations and Amnesty International used the song in their voters' rights educational materials. Public art can and does significantly impact public health and well-being. The evidence is also clear and growing. A landmark 2024 study led by Dr. Tasha Golden of Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine established an evidence-based framework highlighting 6 ways the arts can improve public health. These include promoting physical activity, reducing stress, fostering social cohesion, combating loneliness, aiding and coping with chronic conditions, one of chronic condition I happen to be having a flare-up right now, and enhancing overall happiness and well-being. These are not just abstract benefits, they are direct and measurable outcomes. The arts can help improve memory and cognition, reduce cardiovascular stress, ease the burden on our healthcare systems, and strengthen self-efficacy and social support networks. Beyond health, arts and culture initiatives create safe, inclusive, and engaging environments. They foster a sense of shared belonging, strengthening and connecting our community. The ASC's programs go far beyond what could just be considered a sculpture or a dance class. They represent a comprehensive regional approach to maximizing the cultural impact across our area. They bring together resources and expertise to achieve outcomes that we as a town might struggle to achieve alone. While I wholeheartedly wish we could fully meet the ASC's funding requests this year, we also have to deal with the reality of our budgetary constraints. So an amount of $15,000, I believe, balances fiscal responsibility and a commitment to the arts, ensuring that the ASC can continue to provide essential services while respecting our town's financial limitations.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously. We are on to item 10E, consider approving Bags of Hope. Does anyone need to recuse themselves from Bags of Hope discussion? Okay, may I have a motion?
Again, before the motion is made, I want to give some history about Bags of Hope. Bags of Hope was created in 2012 at the Davidson United Methodist Church. This ministry began as a backpack ministry serving students of 5 nearby schools with weekend food bags. Then, a year later, a group at Journey Church created a similar project. And in 2017, both ministries combined to create Bags of Hope. Currently, Bags of Hope serve 33 schools to help navigate the fight against food insecurities amongst our youth. Not only does Bags of Hope serve the northern Mecklenburg region, but also provides services to Cabarrus and Iredell counties. I would like to make a motion to award $15,000 to Bags of Hope on behalf of the town of Huntersville to ensure that the services provided by Bags of Hope are able to continue for the residents of the northern region of Mecklenburg County and surrounding areas.
And may I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Item 10F, consider approving Caterpillar Ministers FY25 budget amendment. Do any commissioners need to be recused before we address this amendment? Okay. May I have a motion?
Yes, before I make the motion, I just wanted to give some history about Caterpillar as well. Caterpillar Ministries is a nonprofit based in Huntington Green that directly serves residents in that community. For folks who aren't aware, Huntington Green is a diverse, underserved community in Huntersville of approximately 2,200 residents. Many residents live below the federal poverty level and frequently share spaces with multiple family members in one mobile home. Caterpillar was established in 2007 to support the well-being of families in the community, and they have helped residents accomplish many noteworthy things since their inception. Part of their work includes advocating for residents and negotiating with landlords, rent and utilities assistance, counseling for adults and children, ESL and GED courses and assistance, and academic enrichment for children from preschool age to teens for college and career readiness. Additionally, their new program, Get Well, Stay Well, promotes physical activity, which incurs many benefits, including improved mental health, reducing chronic illness and stress, and more. Many residents have barriers to affordable health care, and these preventative measures seek to avert illness before they start. As a result of Caterpillar's work, the Huntington Green community has changed in many positive ways. High school graduation rates among residents have improved significantly, and one young woman has just graduated from Davidson College with a Bachelor of Science in Public Health. Rather than moving away, as some young people do, she accepted a position at Caterpillar as the Community Health Director to help others find success just as she has. And this is just one example of how Caterpillar Ministries has walked alongside residents in our community to uplift them and provide personalized services. So I make a motion to approve a budget amendment for Caterpillar Ministries in the amount of $40,000 for the purposes stated in their application and any attainable housing initiatives as subject to board approval.
And may I have a second? Any discussion? Commissioner Bergson?
So I volunteered at a lot of the organizations. I'd say probably most of them on this list, and Caterpillar Ministries is one that I've both volunteered in the past and given money to. And I support, I support and I will vote for this. I do want to mention that I feel this might be one example where the information that's given in the application needs to be more clear, and especially when you have an organization of which there's nothing wrong with having faith as a large part of a mission. I do personally have concerns when we're talking about tax dollars, especially in thinking about separation of church and state. So I do support this. I would next year love to see Caterpillar Ministries, one, put an annual report on their website so we could see it before making this decision, and just consider that application and how they want to present that. But that's just my opinion.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Rivers?
Saying that Caterpillar Ministries, faith-based, whatever, what we know about nonprofit organizations is they see people. They don't see what a person has, what their race, origin, sexual orientation, any of that. So I'm not quite sure what that is in regards to, or what you're saying in regards to separating state and government or state and faith or whatever you were saying. But I find that to be very interesting, but also very, offensive a little bit, because it comes across as if it's discriminatory a bit. So are you saying that we should not look at giving them funding because of their faith base, or because they're saying ministry, or could you just kind of expound?
Sure, I can expand on that. So, and no, that's not what I'm saying. I know some of their programs, include things like Bible studies and things like that. And when there's an application that doesn't specify which programming the funding is going towards, I personally find an issue when it would be going towards something like a Bible study or things like that. And I've worked for faith-based nonprofits. I worked with Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, so I absolutely don't have any issues. I mean, most of the nonprofits and agencies in our area are faith-based and do wonderful things. I just think we need to be careful in being clear how tax and dollars are being spent.
Commissioner Dumas?
I think I can see what Commissioner Bergsman is saying. I asked a lot when we had them here to speak, I asked a lot about the religious background and if they, not discriminate, but if they would serve everybody. That's something that I ran into as a youth, is while they didn't discriminate and we were offered help and support, I often felt pressured to attend things like Bible classes and youth groups. And I did attend in several instances. And while it wasn't said outright that it was a requirement, it felt pressured. And so I definitely have some concerns and would I think it's worth adding more information. I would agree. You know, I asked the question during the meetings, and I felt like their answers were sufficient, but I think it would help in an application, yes.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. We're on to item 10G, consider approving Hope House fiscal year 25 budget amendment. Do any commissioners need to recuse themselves before we continue? Okay, may I have a motion?
Yep, just by way of background, the Hope House Foundation helps women whose lives have been turned upside down by situations that are out of their control. They provide housing and support services for single, unaccompanied women and women with children experiencing situational homelessness in a pleasant and congregative living environment. They encourage transformative life choices and help women from all backgrounds, age groups, and walks of life. The Hope House Foundation organization originally started when Dr. Lee Beth Lindquist had a dream to help homeless women and their children in Huntersville who needed a hand up and not a handout. These women were not victims of abuse and not recovering from drugs or alcohol and were not chronically mentally ill. They were simply situationally homeless because of what life handed them and needed time to get back on their feet. Hope House collaborates with partners, including the Ada Jenkins Center, to offer case management services, career support, life skills training, and affordable housing options. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget amendment for Hope House in the amount of $20,000 for purposes stated in their nonprofit funding application.
And may I have a second?
Second. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. We're on to item 10H, consider approving Pottstown Heritage Group budget amendment. Do any commissioners need to recuse themselves before we continue?
Before I recuse myself, Madam Mayor, I want to say this. I know there have been questions and conversations as within the board as well as outside about affiliation with me. I want to set the record straight that as of November 8th of 2023, I resigned and I'm no longer affiliated directly or indirectly with Pottstown Heritage Group. However, due to my affiliation and my prior affiliation, I would like to recuse myself this evening.
May I have a motion to recuse Commissioner Rivers?
I make a motion to recuse Commissioner Rivers.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Before
Commissioner Quarles?
we go into,
Yeah, we have to recuse.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. We have to vote to recuse her first. Thank you. Yeah, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Let's just do it again. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Now we can have a motion for item 10H. Consider
Before I make the motion, I'd like to share a few things. Pottstown Heritage Group is a 501c3 organization that was created by residents within the historic Pottstown community. Pottstown Heritage Group was created to empower the residents of the Pottstown community with valuable tools to combat the negative effects of gentrification and displacement through deep awareness, collaboration, and community advocacy. In the past 2 years, Pottstown Heritage Group has assisted residents within the Pottstown community with emergency home repairs, community cleanup, estate planning for seniors, and community resource expos. Through the work of this organization, they have been able to serve over 50 residents. By gaining the momentum and spotlight with their services, they have been recognized by the United Way of the Carolinas, granting the group $20,000, Neighborhood Block Grant for the past 2 years, also receiving $2,500. Neighborhood Grant from Habitat for Humanities. By creating partnership with these notable organizations, it has helped Pottstown Heritage Group to continue their efforts in revitalizing, restoring, and ensuring that residents are able to stay in a place in the historic Pottstown community. With that said, I am pleased to make the motion. I'd like to make the motion to approve a budget amendment for Pottstown Heritage Group in the amount of $10,000 for the purposes stated in their nonprofit funding application.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Walsh?
Yeah, I'm wondering if Mr. Quarles would add that about a third of Pottstown is actually not in Huntersville, and I'd like to see, Huntersville taxpayer dollars go to folks who actually live in Huntersville. Wondering if you'd amend your motion to include those be directed at Huntersville residents.
I am not willing to amend the motion, and my reason for saying that is I could use Angels and Sparrows, for example. You may have some workers working on the street, and they may want to walk inside of Angels and Sparrows to get a sandwich. They may live in Charlotte. So I don't want to do anything that's going to discriminate against one organization versus another. Therefore, I'm not in position or willing to change my motion.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Bursman?
Yeah, I just want to make a point on that as well, or I'm curious why Angels and Sparrows, Ada Jenkins, Caterpillar, we have no idea if how many of their clients are also in ETJ, but still considered Huntersville. So for me, looking at this, it's not whether or not someone is in the ETJ or not, it's whether or not they are part of the Huntersville community, and I see that as two separate things. And I did have one thing I wanted to say on this before we voted on it. I believe that truly empowering historically disenfranchised communities means supporting their efforts to organize and make a difference. Community-driven change emphasizes the insight, leadership, and ownership of the people living and experiencing the issues they are trying to solve. Out of all the external agency applications we received, Pottstown Heritage Group is the only one that could be considered a fully community-driven organization. I personally look forward to seeing what they can accomplish when given the resources required to make lasting, sustainable, impactful change, and I wish we would have been able to give them more funding than what is in the motion.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now may I have a motion to return Commissioner Rivers to the board?
I make a motion to bring Commissioner Rivers back from recusal.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, any opposed? Okay. We'll let Commissioner Rivers return before we proceed to the next item. Okay, item 10I, let's just consider approving Hugh Torrance House. Do any commissioners need to recuse themselves before we proceed? Okay, so may I have a motion for Hugh Torrance House? Commissioner Bursman.
And before I make the motion, I just want to give some background on Hugh Torrance House. So in recent years, the Hugh Torrance House and Store, I feel, has done a wonderful job preserving and sharing the history of the site. They've recently established the HEARTS programming, which stands for History, Ecology, Arts, Reunion, Trails, and Stores. These place-based events explore how nature, history, culture, and the built environment work together to make a place unique. Since Rural Hill decided to withdraw their application while they work through some things, Hugh Torrance ended up being the only application this year that, correct me if I'm wrong, is being funded through the Tourism Fund balance. I feel they've worked hard. Total visitors increased 45%, and they've had 23% more events than in 2022 and have begun to offer school field trip opportunities. I look forward to seeing their continued success. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve a budget amendment for the Hugh Torrance House and Store in the amount of $15,000 for the purposes stated in their nonprofit funding application.
And may I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously. Item number 11, closing comments. Do you have any comments, Commissioner Rivers?
Again, tonight, as we sat around the dais and talked about nonprofit organizations, I think it's important to understand that nonprofit organizations were created to provide a benefit to society. Nonprofit organizations can receive monies or donations from individuals, corporations, as well as government entities. The thing is with nonprofit organizations is the fact that people are out there really doing the hard work and providing resources for those that may not be able to have those things. Again, sometimes we get caught up where we're now in positions to where we've come away from having to struggle or ask for help, and we become far removed from what people are going through on a day-to-day basis. So I want to say to those nonprofit organizations, all of you that came out, gave presentations, thank you, thank you, thank you. I commend you for your hard work and your efforts. I also want to say that you're out there, you're doing the work, you've laced up your bootstraps, and it can be taxing in really understanding what people are going through, because you have to empathize and sympathize with those people. So again, I commend each and every nonprofit organization, and I hate that we weren't able to give to every nonprofit organization, because in reality, they all deserved something. I don't care if it was $5, they deserve something. But again, I commend you all for coming before us, applying. Thank you.
Commissioner Walsh? No. Commissioner Dumas? Commissioner Hunt? Commissioner Quarles?
I'm just going to alter what I have and take a lot out. To love this town is to fight for its people, not only for the affluent or only for those less fortunate. Many need support from our from nonprofits because of human rights and social, economic, and environmental justice, because of gentrification, discrimination, or other issues that may have caused them to be in need. I love Huntersville. I will continue to fight for Huntersville. I do thank each and every nonprofit that submitted their applications to us. We're here to serve. I don't believe in putting a cap on serving people. Many of us are blessed that we don't need these nonprofit organizations. But because we are, I don't ever want us to turn our back on these people, because as Commissioner Dumas was saying, I really felt her testimony. I've been there before. I've been in need, but I'm in a position now where I can be a blessing to someone else. So again, I want to thank the nonprofits for submitting their applications, and hopefully next year we can do more.
Commissioner Bursman? Okay. And then I'll just take my own personal privilege to thank the nonprofits for coming and presenting to us as well, and for putting in the hard work every day that we all see. And also want to thank the members of the board for putting in the hard work and making the tough decisions, because we all wanted to support everybody who asked for something, and unfortunately we weren't able to, but you know, we did this as a group, and I appreciate everyone's hard work and commitment. And so now, item number 12, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And may I have a second?
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.